scratch, and sniff.
If I said Richard III to you, what image does your mind conjure up? A Machiavellian villain from the Dark Ages with a hump and a dodgy haircut, whispering deadly asides to camera, scheming and murdering his way through his reign in order to retain it? A man essentially obsessed with power. Well, architect turned playwright Dixon Potter doesn't think so. In fact, he believes the real Richard III had a much more benign nature. And he's written a play, Good King Richard, based on numerous historical documents, to redress the balance. 3 cheers for Good King Richard. So on the line now from Kenley, near Caterham, is Dixon Potter, who's both written and directed this play. So the White Bear Theatre, this is going to be on from December the 8th to the 20th, and when we're recording it, it's actually the 7th of December, so you're on tomorrow night. How are you feeling?
That's right, it's our opening night, yes.
You got butterflies?
Very exciting.
Presumably you're doing dress rehearsals now.
We are. Today we had what's called the Tech Day. I've only just got home after doing that, and that's where you coordinate the sound and the
technical
lighting.
Rehearsals. Fantastic.
And tomorrow is the dress rehearsal, followed by the opening night.
Now, this is a fantastic idea, Ian. The only thing I can sort of relate it to is a novel I read years ago called Purveyne, which was about Elizabeth I and if she had been assassinated and how history would have taken a different path. So sort of science fiction or a what-if route. But this seems to be restoring history in a way that's never been done before, or has it?
That's right. That was very surprising, that in a way. This isn't like the novel you refer to, because this is,
of course not.
as far as I can make it, what I believe to be the true history of Richard.
Yeah.
The Richard III that most people are aware of through Shakespeare and through our established history books is based largely on Sir Thomas More's History of King Richard.
Yes, written by the victor, of course, the victors.
Exactly, and Thomas More was writing under the Tudor period, and the Tudors were the victors. So there was a great deal of propaganda which painted a monstrous vision of Richard as the vile usurper who murdered the Princess of the Tower and several other people on his way to the throne.
Right.
In fact, some of the people he's supposed to have murdered were murdered before he was born or when he was a child.
So obviously Richard III, King of England, died at the Battle of Bosworth field, and he really marked the end of the Middle Ages.
That's right. He's usually regarded as the last medieval king. He's the last of the Plantagenets and the last king to die in battle.
And of course, we can't avoid Richard III by William Shakespeare, the very Machiavellian character with a hunchback and a side to the camera. And you want to completely sort of set records straight.
That's the idea, yes.
Well, I mean, do you have a big love for history? Where did all this come from?
Yes, I do have a love for history. This play originated last March.
Okay.
It came from, at the time, I've had 3 plays this year produced in London, and the first one was about an imagined friendship between William Shakespeare and Christopher Marlowe. That one was much more conjectural than this one.
Sure.
But at the time, in a conversation with a friend who came to see the play, he had this idea. He said, why don't you make our next play about Richard I? Thinking it would be topical with the Crusades and what's going on in the Middle East at the moment. But it didn't appeal. But I thought, how about another Richard III? Now, at that point, I knew there was an alternative view of Richard. I had once met a member of the Richard III Society. A sort of rough idea of what's referred to as the pro-Ricardian view. But I didn't know a great deal, and so I went away and researched it. I joined the Richard III Society mainly to gain access to their wonderful library. They have manuscripts going back to pre-Tudor period, all translated, of course, into modern English. So I did a great deal of research, and I put together what I, hand on heart, believe is the true history of Richard.
Yes.
Of course, there will be historians who will disagree with this, but I don't say anything in this play they can say, oh, no, that's definitely not true, because it's all it's not only possible, I believe it's plausible, and far more plausible than the villainous view of
Well,
Richard.
let's face it, when the remains of Richard were discovered and confirmed by carbon dating under a car park somewhere, it was confirmed that he wasn't a hunchback, and obviously that there are contemporary or near contemporary sources of information, the Croyland Chronicle, Dominic Mancini, I think, Paston Letters.
That's right.
Presumably you used some of those to shape the play as well.
And it was very important. Although you have to read between the lines, the patron of the Abbey of Crowland near Ely was, in fact, one of Richard's greatest enemies, Margaret Beaufort. And the Bishop of Ely himself, John Morton, was the source of the strong anti-Ricardian propaganda. But there is much that's useful in that, and in Mancini, although the Mancini account finishes before the Battle of Bosworth, so it doesn't tell the full story.
Sure.
And even there, it's biased. But there were a lot of other. I think I probably drew on more than 50 separate sources. Some of them just the odd little tidbit of information.
Robert Fabian, of course.
Yes, Harleian manuscript. There's so many.
So, Ian, do you think this seems such an obvious idea to do, and so fascinating to have a window into what really happened? Obviously, the play Richard III is a masterpiece, but it's a fiction. Hasn't anybody tried to do this before?
Not in the form of a play.
I find this extraordinary.
The closest thing that I'm aware of, and I've asked people who should know far more than I do, the closest thing perhaps is a novel, a detective story written by, let me get her name right, is it just Tay, in the 1950s. And that was a story of a policeman who had a broken leg, so he was confined to hospital. So he whiled away his time researching Richard III. And his research revealed to him in this fictional context that the account by Sir Thomas More was incorrect, and that Richard was in fact probably a much better king and a decent bloke, basically.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, yes, that's the only fictional, as far as I'm aware, account.
So, good King Richard, emphasis on the good. This is a brand new play. I mean, I'm reading about it, a tale of murder, betrayal, rebellion, revenge, political intrigue. I mean, it sounds like House of Cards combined with Dallas. This sounds like a fantastic...
Well, it's funny to say that. I've never seen House of Cards, but people have told me that this play is likely to appeal to people who like House of Cards.
Absolutely.
Very political.
Yeah.
I mean, when I set about researching this, I told myself two things. I'm not going to write this play unless two conditions were satisfied. And one is that I believed in the pro-Ricardian view, because I really had to hand on heart believe on it.
Absolutely.
This. Secondly, that it was a dramatic story. And it's an incredibly dramatic story. If anything, I think it's even more dramatic than the fictional version.
Yes.
Because there are very diabolical characters. The two villains of the piece are actually the two mothers, Margaret Beaufort, ruthlessly intent on putting her son, Henry VII, on the throne, and Elizabeth Woodville, who, in the terms of this play, was the widow of Edward IV, Richard's older brother, ruthlessly intent on putting her son, who would be Edward V, on the throne. And these men are very determined, very Machiavellian, in slightly different ways, of course. And they are the villains of the piece.
Tell us about the White Bear Theatre. I mean, was there a specific theatre you were going to put this play on, or did you sort of look around? Or
I did. I wrote this one very specifically for the White Bear because the White Bear is one of London's fringe theatres which has a very strong reputation for new and experimental writing.
Sure.
And they have put on two of my previous plays, both of which were co-written with Robert Pope, both the one I referred to earlier, The Dead Shepherd, and another one, a contemporary play called The School of Light, which was a comedy about the clash between reason and superstition. So a very different work.
So tell us where the White Bear is situated in good old London.
It's in Kennington. It's walk from Kennington Tube, so it's very central and not far at all from, say, London Bridge, for example. And it's behind a pub, so they do food and drink as well. It's recently been spruced up. It's a very nice place.
So a good evening can be had by all, and a nice drink afterwards. Tell us about the cast. It looked like a very fine group of actors based on the photographs.
This is my first time directing, and I have the help of a co-director, Courtney, as well. She is formally trained in directing, and unlike myself, I'm just playing it by ear, really. But the cast, I have been so fortunate, every single one of them is delivering a superb performance. They're all experienced, of course, even despite the fact that some of them are quite young.
I mean, all the photos of them look like spotlight photos, equity. So I presume, are they all trained professional actors?
They're all professional, absolutely. Oh, yes, this is a thoroughly professional venture.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm very fortunate, and with the technical staff as well.
So this starts, as we're recording now, this starts tomorrow, and it's got a run of about, what,
It's 2 weeks, a 2-week run.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's on 6 days. The theatre is closed on a Monday, so it's on Tuesday to Sunday. Yeah. Sunday is a matinee. The other nights are 7:30.
So if you were selling this in a short sound bite, here's your minute. What are you going to say to us?
The very short sound bite is discover the real Richard III in an entertaining way.
Ian Dixon Potter, thank you so much for joining us, and best of luck with the play and success. And here's to a West End run in the future.
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
And a film as well.
Yeah, it would suit cinema very well.
How exciting, and it all started here. Ian Dixon Potter, thank you so much.
Thanks, Nick.
And our many thanks go to Ian, the cast and crew of the Golden Age Theatre Company, the White Bear Theatre, and composer Jonathan Palmer. Good King Richard begins on December the 8th to the 20th, 2015, and tickets are available online or by calling 0333 666 3366. Go see it. I'm Nick Randall. Goodbye.